Hello and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to share with you the 5 best Arc flyers. And just before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe as it really does help the channel. In at number 5 is the Pteranodon. Now this thing really is a great flyer and is also easily accessible from a very early on level. Its adult is unlocked at level 38, and compared to all of the other flyers on the list, you will not be obtaining them at level 38, let alone riding them, because their saddles are unlocked in the 60s and even 70s. The Pteranodon is very fast as well, which does actually make it very good for travel. And it does have quite a lot of PvP uses, as they can be very good for raiding bases very quickly, as you can simply do the spin attack once you have broken through one of the walls with bombs, and quickly kill everything inside the base, and destroy everything inside the base. But in PvE, they're just great for getting around as well. Also, you can use them for metal runs in the early game, as it means that it is much less likely that you're going to be killed during a metal run, as you are not using the ground anymore, you are using the sky, where there are a lot less enemies. Also, this thing does have okay melee damage as well, and with that spin attack, you can definitely kill quite a lot of things with the Pteranodon, so don't underestimate its power in the melee department as well. But the Pteranodon does sadly have 2 major, really big flaws. That is, its weight isn't that great, and its stamina isn't that great either. This means that you can barely take any metal when you do a metal run, and you're going to have to stop a lot of times on any of your journeys because of that low stamina stat. But the fact that you can fly at a really low level really does outweigh all of this, and a Pteranodon is definitely worth it. In at number 4 is the Wyvern, and I would specifically say the Lightning Wyvern, as if you are going to grab yourself a Wyvern, I would definitely go grab the Lightning one, as it is just the best in every single way. Its abilities do the most damage, and it has a very reasonable amount of range. But there are many things you can use a Wyvern for that you probably didn't even think of. Firstly, if you do use their C-flap, wing flap ability, you are able to harvest wood quite effectively. Yes, Wyverns are actually quite good wood gatherers, so if you don't have a chainsaw or a better wood harvester, the Wyvern actually will probably work quite well for that. Also, on top of that, obviously, they have a great amount of melee damage, far superior than anything the Pteranodon could give, but they do suffer in one small thing: their turning circle is absolutely awful. The Pteranodon does not suffer with that. But also, in terms of taming, these things are a lot more difficult than the Pteranodon. It is not a simple trank tame. You would probably want to use a Griffin and then dive into the Wyvern trenches, quickly take an egg, and quickly get out. Wyverns are vicious. You'll probably get killed a couple times when trying to retrieve an egg. It is definitely worth it, but I would definitely 100% recommend using a Griffin. Also, if you didn't know this, the Wyvern is actually one of the fastest flyers in the game. A lot faster than the Pteranodon. In at number 3 is the Griffin. Now, I was just talking about the Griffin, and now it is time to fully explain why this thing is so amazing. This thing is probably one of the fastest flyers in the game. Yes, on paper, the Lightning Wyvern is quicker, but with the Griffin's dive bomb ability, this thing is just so much faster than the Wyvern ever could be. Yes, I do have some additional speed here. The Griffin isn't this speed by default, but it is still very fast and is very overpowered. You can probably get across any Arc map in around 5 minutes. Just don't even bother trying to use these things on Arboration or Genesis Part 1, as those maps don't even support flyers. Also, apart from the Griffin's incredible speed, this thing also has a very decent amount of melee damage, and its dive bomb ability can actually deal melee damage as well. In a moment, you will see me use this ability on the Bronto, but for the time being, I'm just showing off its general bite. which actually isn't that bad at all, and it can do a very reasonable amount of damage. And the thing is, the advantage with a flyer, if your fight isn't going well on the ground, you can simply just fly away and you can be out of there, no issues at all. Whereas if you're using a ground creature, you could have easily got killed in that scenario. But also, specific to Raasclark, these things are absolutely amazing and are probably the creature for doing any Wyvern trench raids. These things are absolutely insane at doing this due to their dive bomb ability and incredible speed. You can easily go in, grab an egg and just fly out. The Wyverns will simply never catch you, but you still need to be careful. In at number 2 is the RG. Now the RG is really a special flyer in every way. This thing is an absolutely incredible creature as a flyer, and it has so many real world uses as well. Yes, it is definitely the slowest flyer on our list today, but that does not mean it is not useful at all. This thing has a wealth of abilities. Firstly, it is absolutely insane for gathering metal, crystal and obsidian. It has weight reduction for all of them as well, and also on top of that it has a great weight stat. So it means you can gather a hell of a lot of metal and you will have no problems gathering it all. Also, its saddle is a portable smithy, so you can craft metal weapons on the fly if they happen to break on you if you are doing a metal run. Also, these things can pick up a wealth of creatures as well. I don't know the specific amount, but it can definitely pick up creatures of a reasonable size, and smaller creatures can even go in its beak for it to pick up. But the RG does have one secret hidden ability up its sleeve. This thing can heal incredibly quickly once it eats a dead body. So if you are in a fight and you are very low, simply kill something that has a relatively low health stat and you will heal very quickly. In at number 1 is the Snow Owl. Now, did you expect this? Probably not. You may have thought the RG should take this spot, but in my opinion, the Snow Owl is definitely deserving of this spot. Now, before we get into talking about how good this thing is, there is just one downside to it. It spawns on extinction, which means it is actually locked behind a paywall, and I know I don't tend to put creatures on the lists that are locked behind paywalls, but this thing is just so good, it really does warrant being on this list. So firstly, these things are actually pretty good metal gatherers as well. They have a reasonable amount of weight and a very reasonable amount of stamina. And also, like the Griffin, they have that famous dive bomb ability. But unlike the Griffin, it feels a lot smoother and easier to control. This thing is a lot more satisfying than the Griffin. Also, it has this kind of heat-seeking ability where you can see any creatures giving off radiant heat. This is great in PvP if a PvP player is simply hiding in a hedge, then you can easily spot them and dispose of them as you wish. But their main use as an ability is their healing freezing ability. But just make sure to level stamina when you use this thing, as it will use quite a lot. And take into mind that it will heal every creature in its healing vicinity, that be wild creatures, enemy creatures, or your own creatures. If you just want to heal your own creatures, you are going to have to use a Pteranodon. In terms of speed, the Snow Owl is actually pretty reasonable, but it isn't going to stack up to something like a Managama, which is another creature which spawns on extinction. But it still has a very reasonable amount of speed, and that dive bomb ability really makes this thing just so nice to use. And also, as another thing which does involve another creature on extinction, which is the Gacha, once a Gacha has been fed Snow Owl pellets, it will drop absolutely insane loot from crystals that spawn on its back. Sadly, since Extinction's release in 2018, this has been nerfed, but it is still absolutely insane, worth it, and OP. Anyway, that is going to conclude today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and also, did you agree with this list? If not, comment your top 5 best flyers down below, and I will see you all later. Bye.